For centuries, trade was about ships, warehouses, and goods physically changing hands across borders. Empires fought to control resources, ports, and supply routes through brute force. But Britain eventually realized something far more profitable than owning commodities. It discovered controlling settlements mattered more than controlling production. Settlement is the moment trade becomes real, when promises turn into payments. Whoever controls settlement controls trust, timing, and final authority. Britain learned this quietly while others chased territory. Power shifted from cargo to calculation. London's merchants noticed traders feared one thing above storms: piracy or price changes. They feared not getting paid. Delayed payments destroyed businesses faster than lost shipments. Britain stepped into that fear with solutions. British banks offered clearing services, guaranteeing payments between distant parties. Buyers paid London, sellers trusted London, and goods moved confidently. London stood between both sides, invisible yet indispensable. Trade began flowing through Britain without passing physically through Britain. This was the clearing trick. Britain didn't need to touch goods to profit from them. It needed to sit between transactions, collecting fees and authority. Middlemen became monarchs. As global trade expanded, clearing grew more valuable than shipping itself. Goods crossed oceans once, but payments crossed London every time. Each transaction reinforced dependence on British financial infrastructure. London became unavoidable. Merchants preferred British clearing because courts enforced contracts reliably. English law protected payments with speed and credibility. Trust clustered around London naturally. Clearing followed trust. Bills of exchange flowed into London after feeding a financial heart. Paper promised payment elsewhere, but validation happened in Britain. Time zones collapsed into ledgers. Distance became accounting. Colonial trade accelerated this system dramatically. Raw materials left colonies, but money settled in London. Value passed through Britain before reaching producers. Empire functioned through paper, not ports. Other nations attempted creating independent clearing centers, but without trust, enforcement, and liquidity, they failed repeatedly. Clearing requires belief at scale. Britain already owned belief. London banks netted transactions efficiently, cancelling debts internally. Instead of moving gold, numbers moved across ledgers. This reduced risk, cost, and delay. Efficiency locked loyalty. Wars strengthened Britain's clearing dominance unexpectedly. Neutral traders still required reliable settlement during conflict. London remained stable, while others burned. Crisis concentrated power. The pound became a clearing reference even without universal usage. Currencies converted through London implicitly. Britain touched every trade without appearing in trade statistics. Invisibility protected dominance. Insurance, shipping, and clearing merged into one ecosystem. A ship insured in London, paid through London, judged by London law. Trade revolved around a single axis. Britain built the hub. Clearing fees looked insignificant individually, but multiplied across millions of transactions, they generated enormous wealth. Britain monetized volume other than production. Scale replaced ownership. Banks refined clearing into specialized expertise. Correspondent banking networks spread British standards globally. Local banks answered upward. London coordinated silently. Merchants stopped asking whether London should be involved. They asked how fast London could settle. Speed equaled survival. Dependence deepened. Clearing shaped geopolitics subtly. Countries excluded from London faced financial isolation. Trade slowed. Currencies weakened. Influence collapsed. Britain wielded exclusion quietly. Even rivals relied on London during growth periods. Clearing was neutral, technical, and apolitical, or appeared so. That appearance disarmed resistance. Power hid behind process. By the late 19th century, London cleared a majority of world trade payments. Goods moved globally, but money paused in Britain. This pause created leverage. Leverage became control. The genius of the clearing trick was simplicity. No conquest, no proclamation, no occupation, just settlement. Britain mastered the moment when trade becomes real. Today's global finance still reflects this architecture. Clearing houses, settlement systems, correspondent banks all echo London's model. Middlemen rule invisibly. Britain wrote the blueprint. But this system created silent vulnerabilities no one wanted to acknowledge openly. What happens when the middleman becomes unavoidable? What happens when settlement becomes power? Those answers would arrive later. As clearing volumes exploded, London realized settlement wasn't service anymore. It was strategic leverage. Every payment pause created visibility, influence, and quiet veto power over global trade flows. Whoever sat between buyer and seller could delay, prioritize, or deny completion subtly. Britain had positioned itself exactly there, unseen yet indispensable. Banks refined clearing into layered networks, routing transactions through London regardless of origin or destination. A sale between two foreign firms still passed through British correspondent accounts. This routing normalized dependence without formal mandate. Convenience replaced consent. Clearing houses netted obligations, cancelling debts before money ever moved physically. This reduced risk and costs, increasing efficiency that competitors couldn't replicate easily. Efficiency created loyalty stronger than treaties. London became habit. Governments noticed clearing's power when sanctions and exclusions began shaping outcomes silently. Being cut from London meant frozen trade without a single ship seized. Financial isolation proved faster than blockades. Britain learned exclusion could enforce policy without conflict. During global shocks, liquidity rushed toward trusted clearing centres instinctively. London absorbed stress, redistributed payments, and stabilized markets selectively. Those inside survived turbulence. Those outside suffered delays. Crisis revealed hierarchy. Corporations structured contracts to ensure London settlement, valuing predictability over marginal costs. A London-cleared deal felt safer, insurable, and enforceable. Risk premiums fell, reinforcing preference. Preference became standard. Currency conversion quietly reinforced dominance, as rates referenced London liquidity pools. Even when sterling wasn't used, sterling rails were. Money spoke British before speaking local. Settlement shaped language. Clearing intertwined with law, insurance, and arbitration into a single operating system. Disputes returned to London, payments cleared in London, risks insured in London. The loop closed tightly. Exit became impractical. Technology accelerated this architecture rather than disrupting it fundamentally. Digital payments moved faster, but clearing logic remained unchanged. Speed magnified volume. Volume magnified power. Britain scaled invisibly. Rival centres emerged, yet mirrored London's rules to gain credibility. Imitation reinforced the original, not replaced it. Standards spread British logic globally. Authority multiplied through copying. Trade statistics underestimated Britain's influence because goods never entered British ports. But money lingered, paused, and passed through British systems reliably. Invisibility protected reputation, control avoided attention. As globalization deepened, clearing decided winners during liquidity shortages. Priority access mattered more than price. Networks favored incumbents. Britain curated access quietly. Financial crises taught a hard lesson to nations worldwide. Production mattered less than settlement access when panic struck. Factories stopped without payments. Clearing was survival. Britain's advantage lay in neutrality theatre. Clearing appeared technical, not political, procedural, not strategic. This framing disarmed opposition. Power hid behind plumbing. Over time, dependence became systemic. Pensions, trade finance, commodities, energy, all settled through familiar rails. Changing rails risked chaos. stability anchored Britain. The middleman role matured into governance without votes. Rules were enforced by access, not laws. Compliance followed incentives. Authority stayed diffuse. Even today, new systems promise disruption, rely on old clearing backbones. Innovation rides legacy rails for trust. Trust returns to London's design. Blueprints endure. History rarely credits middlemen as rulers. Yet empires of settlement outlast empires of territory. Britain understood timing beats ownership, and settlement is timing. If this story changed how you see trade and power, remember, control lives where transactions finish, not where goods begin. Subscribe for more untold histories of money and influence. Because the real empire often sits between the lines.